As we think about traveling through the journey of life and faith by ourselves and collectively with those around us, we are looking for bread for the traveler. Throughout the wisdom of the Psalms, thinking about the experiences that those who have come before us have had and the insights that they have gained through those experiences and how those insights can help us cultivate an awareness of God's presence with us and how that informs how we move about our lives, making the decisions that we make. That today we're reading from Psalm 127, where it says, "Unless the Lord builds the house, those who build it labor in vain. Unless the Lord guards the city, the guard keeps watch in vain. It is in vain that you rise up early and go late to rest, eating the bread of anxious toil. For he gives sleep to his beloved. Sons are indeed a heritage from the Lord, the fruit of the womb a reward. Like arrows in the hand of a warrior are the sons of one's youth. Happy is the man who has his quiver full of them. He shall not be put to shame when he speaks with his enemies in the gates." When we think about rising up early or going late to rest, we may think about setting the alarm clock, last thing that we do at night, and then how we shudder when it goes off in the morning, hitting snooze once or twice or 3 times. And then we go and we clock in for work and we move about quickly from one task to the next, finally clocking out to return home. Just a few more hours left in the day. And we hear echoing in the background the words of the psalmist, "Unless the Lord builds the house, those who build it labor in vain." Now, in this short psalm, there are a couple bits of wisdom, both of them connected to one another by the psalmist in the context of the day. That one, trying to labor without God's guidance is vanity. And 2, children are a gift from God. And we see, particularly looking at the Hebrew, how 2 words that are very similar link those 2 words of wisdom. The word bana, which means to build, and the word banim, meaning children. Now, if we leave this day and time and we go back to that day and time, we see how family and work, building a house, and the gift of children, and in particular this context referring to sons, although daughters were very important, just not always recognized, that in that context, those 2 things are inseparable. Families living together, clustered with extended family, provided security. That working with one another, having a large family able to work the land, or someone to apprentice a skill to pass on, or for those you can pass the land on to, that family and work were inseparable in ways that are different from today. But if we step back and we widen the lens of the psalm in a way that could include our context, the wisdom is the houses that we build, the lives that we live, should always benefit the generations to come. That they should always take a long view. And this is a song of ascent, meaning pilgrims who would go up to Jerusalem to visit the temple. So the house that it discusses can refer to the house of God. the house that redefines all of our other houses and how we live our lives. As travelers going about our days, we face decisions and dilemmas. And we have a choice put in front of us, either to take the short view, focused on what is best for right now, or the long view, what is best for tomorrow. And many times, fortunately, those two are congruent, that what is best for the short term is also what's best for the long term. But then there are other occasions where those two are very different, that what is best for right now is at odds with what is best for tomorrow, and that what is best for tomorrow is at odds with what is best for right now. And it makes our decisions much harder. Even today, our loved ones, our family and friends or extended family, the work that we do, the lives that we live, all of those are interconnected in ways that are different from the context of the psalmist, but they are connected. And we find ourselves deciding between the short view and the long view, where what we do for our work may be at odds with what our loved ones need from us and vice versa, that our work can become compulsive, partly because of the reach of technology and an inability to fully be away from our responsibilities, or the expectations that we must produce, or a focus on the consumer who always has a request. And then there are our crowded calendars, where our lives become the activities that are down on the calendar, that we're always on our way to the next thing, that it can feel as if the tail is wagging the dog. So we step back and we think about the wisdom of the psalmist and what it means to build a house, to think about the short view and the long view. Well, when we build a house, there are, of course, blueprints. You have to start with the foundation, making sure it is sturdy and right. And then there is the framing that has to come next before we can then move to the interior, that one step follows the next step, which follows the next. But in every construction project, there are setbacks. One group is ready to move on to the next project before this one is yet finished, although one needs to take place before the other can. And then we are tempted to get things out of order, to rush things or push things, to cut corners so that the process can continue. That there are those tensions between the short view and the long view. But our faith always calls us to look towards the long view, that how we live our lives are to benefit the generations to come. And one way that we can do that is by prioritizing people over projects. And one way that we prioritize people over projects is by asking for permission instead of forgiveness. Now, I know the old saying is ask for forgiveness instead of permission. But one way that we take the long view is by asking for permission instead of forgiveness, because it builds community. It invites others to come along with us. It ensures trust. It prioritizes people over projects. Now, there are times when it feels as if we do not get the project done, the entire journey will become derailed, that everything needs to go according to how we envisioned it to go, that we can accidentally labor as if everything depends on us. But the psalmist gently reminds us that is vanity. The psalmist helps us to widen our vision and to focus our priorities by leaning in to the long view, where people are always a priority above everything else. That in that, we find bread for the traveler as we go about our lives. Amen.